Hello. According to the National Institute for Health, over 1.5 million Americans were newly diagnosed with some form of cancer in 2010. Another 570,000 Americans passed away from their struggle with the disease in the same year. While not entirely curable or preventable, there is an extent that we can play in the screening and early detection of many of these deadly cancers. While I'm not here today to try and persuade you to go to your physician and get a special checkup, I am here today to inform you of the many risk factors and the screening and early detection techniques available to us to help increase our prognosis and decrease our occurrence of cancer. What you do with that information is entirely up to you, but I feel as though if I educate just one person to the risk factors of these two major types of cancers, then I've done a good job. I'll be speaking about the risk factors and subsequent screening tools for both prostate and breast cancers. To begin, I would like to talk about the most frequently diagnosed of these two cancers, in prostate cancer. The American Cancer Society states that in 2010, 217,000 men were newly diagnosed with prostate cancer in the United States, and 32,000 more passed away. The first step to screening for this terrible type of cancer is to just go speak with your physician. He'll ask you about your family history of the disease, and with that, he'll be able to determine your risk and your need for early screening and detection. The American Cancer Society states that the normal age to begin screenings for prostate cancer is around 50 in normal men with no familial history, and 45 in men with a familiar history, or if they're an African American male. The doctor will perform just a simple blood test called a prostate-specific antigen test, or PSA test. All this simply is the doctor will draw a vial of blood for testing to see if there's a level of a hormone known as PSA circulating in the blood. PSA is indicative of prostate growth, either benign or malignant, which is why it's a little bit unclear with just a PSA test. So the PSA test would be your first step. If the PSA test is elevated to a high enough degree, the doctor will perform a rectal exam where he will use his fingers to palpate the prostate for any growths. If the doctor finds any abnormalities or growths on the prostate, he will then recommend you for a prostate biopsy, which they would put you under sedation and take out a small piece of tissue from the prostate to examine for malignancy, and if malignant, to see how far along the cancer has become. By detecting this cancer early, many more treatment options are available to the patient, and the prognosis increases greatly than if it were to be diagnosed in the later third or fourth stages of cancer. So the earlier we detect these kinds of cancers, the higher the prognosis and the better the chances are for survival. Moving on to the second type, breast, it hits much closer to home for me. My grandmother was diagnosed with this terrible disease in 2003, and she went through a battle that eventually took both of her breasts and her life. It was diagnosed in her at a point where it had already begun to metastasize and spread throughout her body, and this was all due to her refusal to get checkups every year by her doctor, something she had done her entire life. I feel as though her life could have been saved if she had only known the importance of screening. The American Cancer Society recommends that women in their 20s to 30s begin getting clinical breast exams from their physician every 3 years during their annual checkup, starting at that time, around the 20s to 30s. Women are also asked to perform self-breast exams, which is just a matter of women palpating their breasts in the shower or just any time at home so they can feel what their breast feels like normally, and then by repeating this throughout the year, if any abnormalities or differences or growths are felt, you can report that to your doctor and have that checked out immediately. The final thing is around beginning at age 40, yearly mammograms should begin for healthy women, and these mammograms should continue until as long as these women are healthy for the rest of their lives. But there is a small percentage of American women that the American Cancer Society recommend begin mammograms earlier and with the accompaniment of a MRI for further clarity. These women generally have a serious familial history of breast or ovarian cancer, as well as many genetic risk factors that may predispose them to this type of deadly cancer. Speaking with your doctor is really the best and only way to determine if you fall into this small number of women. So while I've only skimmed the surface of ways that modern medicine is able to help screen for cancer, I hope that I have left enough of an impact on you today to understand that you are the only person that can do something about the early detection of cancer. It starts with your initiative, and like my grandmother always said, it's better to be safe than sorry. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good day.